Hello from Ireland. Need to catch up on your documentaries? Well, don't worry, we've got you covered. Here at Docs That Rock, we review the best documentaries on the planet.
Watch out because they're not spoiler free, but hey, that might suit you. Subscribe and download the weekly dish on Docs That Rock, available at bigheadsmedia.com and all good podcast providers.
This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Hey everyone, you're wasting time with Chris, Beth, and Matt. My name is Chris Williams. With me as always are
Beth Golpe.
and
Matt December.
we're having fun already.
Oh, here we are.
Yeah.
How are you guys?
Good, how are you?
I'm great.
How's your fall going?
My fall is going great. The weather is brisk.
Brisk my butt. It's never brisk in September.
We're recording this like 2 weeks early so we could be in the middle of a heat wave by now.
Yeah, we definitely are.
School is good.
We're all
I think.
sunburned in real life.
But really, I'm just happy because it's my favorite episode.
Oh, this
I
is
do
my
love this.
favorite episode.
Yes, it's mine too. I do love it.
This is the one where we focus. This is the one where we really drill down and say, hey, this is where we're expert. We're going to share a little bit about the... we're going to talk a little bit about the favorite pop culture things we have going on this month. And, yeah, I'm excited. This is always a fun episode.
Me too. I was just thinking, like, my favorite thing to do when I'm with my friends is, like, tell me what are you watching? What are you listening to? You know? Like,
yeah. I mean, that's true. You do this in real life with regular people.
I do. And there's nothing like that feeling of finding something real, a new podcast, a new show that really clicks with you. And you're just like, you get that feeling where you're like, I'm going to be spending time with this.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, let's go.
Yeah, Matt, you start.
Is that
Go ahead.
Do you want me to start, Chris?
You go where the spirit leads you, man.
All right. So my favorite recently has been the Amazon original series called The Boys. And this is a superhero television program based on the comic book by the same name. It was written by Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson. One of those might have been the artist. I think Derek Robertson's actually the artist. And the story basically follows the titular team of vigilantes as they fight back against superpowered people who abuse their abilities. And in this case, the people who are abusing their abilities are mostly all superheroes. So in this particular comic booky universe, superpowered people are recognized as superheroes, and most of them, or all of them, I guess, I don't know, are in some way owned by this giant conglomerate, Vought International, which markets them and monetizes them. Like, they make movies about them or with them, and they are in commercials for various things. And so, but what you come to find out pretty quickly, within the first, 15 or 20 minutes of the episode, at least, maybe sooner than that, is that most of them are pretty arrogant, they're corrupt, they're mostly all very vile, selfish people. And so the story follows two groups. One is the Seven, and that is the premier superhero team, and they are, based on the Justice League, which, I think we're all familiar with. Superman, Wonder Woman, The Flash. And so they're the number one superhero team in the world. And then the titular team, the Boys, they are a group of kind of vigilantes who in some way or other have a vendetta against these heroes and against this corporation. And so the show is Carl Urban was one of the leads. He plays Billy Butcher, and he's the leader of the Boys.
I love Carl Urban.
I do really like Carl Urban a lot. He seems super likable.
Mm-hmm.
He's not very likable in this because he's kind of a bastard, but he's still very good. Jack Quaid is in it. Let's see, who else is in this thing? Boy, where did the list of people go?
I didn't recognize anyone when I was flipping through, but...
What's her name in it? Who plays the one woman? Chris, you just said this name earlier. Simon Pegg is...
Simon Pegg's in it.
He's got a...
Elizabeth Shue is in it.
Elizabeth Shue is in it, yeah. And executive producer, one of the executive producers is Seth Rogen. This is a Seth Rogen project.
Oh.
So anyway, I watched all of it. I got this. You watched one episode, Chris?
I did. I watched the first episode.
And you watched none of it, right?
I watched none of it. My husband watched it and was mad about it, but the IMDb score was high, like surprisingly high.
So I talked to. I know why Chris didn't like it. I kind of see where he's like what his criticism of the series was, but I don't know if I share it. Anyway, it's I thought it was good. It's very cynical. I mean, the whole point. It's very like, the whole thing is very cynical about superheroes and about people in power. And I just was reading something earlier today about like it's like there's this like with gritty, realistic superhero stories these days. There's this like. It's like, what if... So, the stories get kind of, like, they're removed from the original, like, intent of a superhero story, which this thing was doing was basically, like, what if someone who is good has power, as opposed to a lot of these more gritty, realistic, like, what if somebody who is not good has power, right? Mm-hmm. Or what if someone who's selfish has all this power, where, like, the like superhero stories really I think are probably these are interesting stories in a lot of ways, but I think we're getting so many of them that like I think really good superhero stories are ones that are about like, well, what if someone who's good has power and what does that mean? What do they do? How do they go about doing good for the world with all this power they have? Which I think is pertinent in today's world. So anyway, but I think this is like an interesting. I think it's good. I think the story was interesting. I think production wise, it's as impressive as anything on any of the streaming services. I think it looks like a movie. I mean, the special effects.
Yeah.
Like, how many episodes was it?
It's the first season's only 8. They've already announced the second season.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Chris, any thoughts after only watching just one episode?
Yeah, I kind of had stayed away from this one mainly because I got a real Kick-Ass vibe out of it.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I do not like that movie at all. Like, I am not a fan of Kick-Ass. And I would say there's a little bit of that. It's definitely a show that wants to kind of revel in how badass it is in some parts. Like there is a moment of gore early on, like in the first episode, that is one of the most graphic, violent things I've seen. It's kind of the whole thing that sets everything.
Yeah, it sets everything in motion. Yeah,
and it's kind of a moment that it's so shocking that it feels like a joke. But at the same point, it's supposed to be the whole emotional underpinning of the main character's quest. And I'm like, I can't tell if that's supposed to be funny or not. And there is kind of this attitude where the sexuality is very brazen in it. Mm-hmm. And it's very, heavy in the F-bombs and the nudity and the violence and stuff. So I kind of, there's a little bit of that, but I really do like the world. I think that it's really interesting how they have this world where, the superheroes are all kind of commodified, and there's this big conglomerate taking over superheroes, and it's not Disney, but it's not Disney.
Right, yeah.
They're in their own movies. The whole thing starts off with a logo that's a riff on the Marvel logo.
Yeah, that's right.
I like Carl Urban a lot. I think he's a lot of fun. He is a guy who I like seeing pop up in pretty much anything.
Is this him bald? And this is him in the show?
This is him from Thor.
Yeah.
Oh. I'm like trying to find him in this.
But so I like him. So I think the show kind of wins me over. There's a lot going on in it.
I see. He's so handsome.
We kind of got derailed there.
Sorry, he's so handsome. He really is.
I don't know what he looks like in the show for some reason.
Like, what's his facial hair situation? He's a chameleon. He can really do a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. But no, it's kind of winning me over. I like the world enough that I'll keep watching. I think the first episode ends on a note that kind of had me like, oh, where's this going? I think I talked to you about it earlier, Matt. I called it Dumb Watchmen, which I feel is kind of apt.
It has a real Watchmen vibe, just the visuals.
Yeah, the world is very Watchmen-esque. Like, there's superheroes, and the world knows there's superheroes, but the superheroes all have kind of their own issues. It's not as smart, it's not as layered as the Watchmen, but it's very watchable. I think the action's a lot of fun. I like Simon Pegg a lot. I don't know if he's in it a lot, but I do like Simon Pegg. I'm curious to see where it goes. It's 8 episodes. It's not gonna...
Yeah, it's not a huge time commitment.
It'll hold me over until the Watchmen TV show comes out this fall on HBO.
Yeah, I think it's like interesting. I think it's worth a watch. I think it's it goes to like some pretty dark places, and I think really in the first episode you don't really get introduced to the boys at all. Really, I mean, I think you kind of meet Carl Urban a little bit, and you meet who essentially the main character is played by Jack Quaid. His name's Huey. He's the one who's kind of this accident involving a superpowered character and his girlfriend, and that kind of sets the whole thing in motion.
Which that's what I thought was interesting, was the idea of collateral damage caused by superheroes.
Yes, it is interesting, and it kind of isn't really, other than his character, I don't know that it gets used really as much as I thought it would, because just based on that, I'm like, oh boy, this is really gonna be about like, oh, these superheroes like just destroy a whole town, and then they have this huge corporation to cover it up, and they just pay everybody off. But that's not really. It really is really is about the kind of the vile, selfish people that these superheroes are. And but anyway, I digress. Yeah, I think it's worth watching. Like I said, it's only 8 episodes, and I think especially with so much superhero shit these days, like I think it's.
Yeah, I'm usually of the mind that I prefer superheroes being good.
Yeah.
But I think when you have a lot of that, it helps to have 1 or 2 shows that kind of deflate that a bit.
I agree. Yeah, so I think it's good. I think it's worth checking out. Like I said, it's Amazon Prime, which again, you mentioned this Vought International, and they're kind of in Disney, but the thing is, like, Amazon, this is like an Amazon show, and Amazon is just as big, if not bigger, than Disney.
Oh yeah, so, Amazon's the biggest company in the world.
So, so anyway, it's worth checking out. It's on Amazon.
Cool. I'm so glad it's on my list, and it's going to line up right next to Jack Ryan and Catastrophe and other shows I've started and never finished.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I'll bug you about it next time.
All right. Beth, what about you?
Oh, I've been watching the second season of Mindhunter season 2 on Netflix. Now, who watched Mindhunter season 1?
I did.
You watched the entire season.
I finished season 1.
Chris couldn't get through the first episode, I recall.
I watched Mindhunter half 1 of episode 1.
Well, I do recall the first season very vividly because I have spoke about it before. I believe it was my favorite last year when the first season came out.
It was.
Because the first 2 episodes are super duper mega slow of season 1. Season 2 kind of like, it's in season 2. I'd say the first episode is a little slow, but it kind of jumps right into it, and it is pretty bananas. So for people that are not familiar with Mindhunter, it is about the formation of the behavioral analysis unit of the FBI. So it's not a true story, but based on true events. The characters are fictional, but what happened is, it's the real sort of trajectory of this like unit of the FBI getting formed. So it's like right when they coined the term serial killer, they start trying to get ahead of people, predict violent behavior instead of just like cleaning up after it. So they do this by interviewing serial killers all over the country. And in the first season, they mainly focus on Ed Kemper, who is I forget what they called him. He killed a whole ton. The co-ed killer. He killed a whole ton of women in a super mega violent. Heads coming off and doing stuff to their heads after they're like really super disgusting, vile stuff. But it's once they get into the interviews in season 1, it's pretty good, and sort of how these interviews affect. And because they take all the cuffs off of the serial killers when they interview them, they try to make them as comfortable as possible, and they like want to get them talking, so they're like nice to them. They like eat pizza with them, and then like how being kind to someone like that, or even faking being kind to someone like that can really screw with your head. is sort of like the main theme of the first one. The main character is Jonathan Groff, who plays Agent Holden, who's kind of like, he's super young, but he's like the brains behind the whole thing. He's super smart. He's super like manipulative and good at interviewing these serial killers. I know that most people that I spoke with had a big problem with him because his character is so annoying in the first season. Right, Matt? Was like what really turned you off.
I mean, I watched it, but I wouldn't necessarily say I liked it.
Yeah. His ego in that first season is so like, it's almost unwatchable. They make him so unlikable.
He's so unlikable, yeah.
He has this huge like sort of crash and burn at the end of the first season. And in the second season, he wakes up in, this isn't like spoiling, but he wakes up in a psych ward at the very beginning of the second season, and he's a much more humble and easy to watch character this whole second season. So now they're interviewing like Son of Sam, Charlie Manson, the guy that actually did the Manson murders, like Tex, I think his name is, or something like that. I don't know. They interview him. It's really, which I knew a lot about Charlie Manson, but a lot of the stuff isn't. It was even like, the whole thing with this show is I have a sort of philosophy, which I think we'll get into more when we hear about Chris's favorite, that I don't watch anything that makes me feel bad. Like, I can bad while I'm watching it. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean I have to watch happy stuff, but if watching it makes me feel sick, I'm like, you know what? Why am I doing this? This isn't giving me a good feeling. Like, even if I'm enjoying watching it, if it's making me feel anxious or sick or like worried about my kids, which this season it focuses on the serial killer in Atlanta who's killed at this point in the show that I'm watching. I'm not even finished with it. It's like 19 kids. So have just been going like, I only have one episode left, so I'm obviously going to finish it. But it is not feel-good television, but it's very interesting. So, yeah, that's it. I highly recommend. Good watch, but if you like true crime and this kind of stuff, it is so on the money, but it's intense.
Chris, what you had some thoughts on the show?
Yeah, I don't have many thoughts on the show, because I feel like it should be something I like, because I do like David Fincher a lot, who's a producer, and he directs a bunch of episodes. Jonathan Groff is a guy who I like in some things. Like, he's really good in Frozen. He's really good in Hamilton. But he is so bland, and I don't know if that's supposed to be part of the character.
It is definitely his character.
But it definitely did not make me want to stick around with him.
That's fair.
But I just feel like the world is so shitty right now. I don't want to watch another show about shitty people.
Well, that's like where I'm like I said, I am definitely in a place where I'm trying to let my media consumption sort of like lift me up rather than make me feel sadder. And like after I finished episode 7, I had to go, like totally change my energy, for lack of a better word. I was reading and went upstairs and was, I had to totally do something else and turn my brain off because I was like, I can't go to bed like this because I felt pretty shitty. But it is so good and I just have to know how it ends. So,
Okay.
Fun fact though, the guy who plays Charlie Manson in this also plays Charlie Manson in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Well, he looks exactly like him. So it's pretty scary. I also didn't know he was only 5'1".
Charlie Manson?
Yes.
That's funny. I didn't know that.
They make, they go to see Charlie Manson, and then he won't see them. They make an appointment. They have this, meeting set up, and then he won't see them. So they're like, let's go see Ed Kemper. He's in the same prison. It's like, we'll go visit him, and it'll make Charlie Manson jealous. And then, which exactly all that happens. But when they're leaving, Ed Kemper's like, you probably don't know, but he's small, and don't say anything to him or he's and Ed Kemper is 6'9" in real life. And in the show, they make the guy, they make him look enormous because he is. But, he's so funny. And so he's very small, and he sits on a chair on a table when he talks to them. He puts the chair. I know. But It's crazy.
Classic
It's great.
Australian
The
accent.
interview, that whole episode is so crazy. It's so good. It really is good.
I might get around to it one day. Maybe around Halloween. We'll see.
Ooh.
Good Halloween fodder.
Yeah. Matt, did you have anything to say on it, or?
No.
Okay.
Watch it.
Well, we'll go to mine, which is different. I don't really have a TV show that I'm totally invested in right now. I feel like everything I'm kind of stuck on the first episode, and movies I've written enough about that I felt like I wanted to do something different. So I thought about the fact that right now I'm starting school, I'm keeping busy at work, we have the kids, I have all these outside projects I'm trying to do, and on top of that, earlier this year, I went off anxiety medication that I had been on for a few years. So I wanted to I really spent a lot of this year trying to figure out how to keep centered and calm and keep anxiety at bay. And I've used technology a lot to do that. So I thought, well, that might be fun to talk about. One of my solutions is not a technical solution, but it kind of ties into it. So I know Matt's got his timer, and we'll try and make it out very quickly.
You've got plenty of time. You're all right.
So I found some nice tools, and I just kind of want to talk about them because they might be helpful for other people. I have first off really taken up journaling this year.
Have you really?
I have, and I've always kind of kept a journal. Just here's what's going on. Here's what happened today. Here's what I read in my Bible and things like that. But I have tried to make a concerted effort to be more introspective in my journaling, to kind of understand what I'm thinking, especially if I have a day where I'm kind of anxiety's kind of creeping in, or I'm really frustrated and angry, to kind of unpack that and understand that more. And that's been like a really helpful thing. And I've loved doing it, actually. It's been a really nice way to kind of keep my writing going, but also kind of understand myself better. So I really recommend, like, if you especially are kind of, trying to be more introspective, a journal is a great way to do that. It kind of forces you to be get everything out and
Do you typically journal in the morning or the evening?
Depends on what time I have. It's usually, if I write anything kind of in depth, it's in the evening. But a lot of times I'll start off a morning, like especially if I know it's just been a rough week, I will take a morning, I'll write like 3 things I'm grateful for.
Oh, that's nice.
Like that.
Gratitude journal.
Yeah, so it's kind of that. It's kind of, my kids are driving me nuts and things like that. But the other ones all have this kind of technological component to them. So I started meditating this year. And I had always kind of stayed away from it in the past because I grew up in really Christian circles that kind of frowned on meditation. Because they always attach this kind of new age, thing to it where you're trying to unlock something in you. And I think it's silly that they kind of got weird about it, because what I've found is just, it's really helpful to just sit and to breathe and to be quiet and to just kind of focus on what's going on around you. And so I found an app that I really like, called the Insight Timer. And it's just, there are pre-recorded meditations on there you can use, but there's also, what I use is just a timer set up where I can put on different sounds, like rain or like a babbling brook or something. And you set a timer for a few minutes, and every morning I will go on out to our sun porch, and I'll sit down, I'll put it on for like 5 to 10 minutes, and I will just sit and breathe quietly. Earlier this week, we had a day where I rushed home from work. The kids were kind of driving me nuts. Work had kind of exhausted me. And we had to get dinner going. I knew it was going to be kind of another rough night, because the kids were very wound up. Went upstairs for 15 minutes, meditated, came down, felt great. So yeah, I mean, that app has been really helpful, but the simple act of sitting down and breathing and collecting my thoughts, and just even if it's just 5 minutes, really has helped.
What do you think? What's going on in your head when you're doing this?
Nothing. It is a clear head. It is focusing.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, you're focusing on your breathing. I'm listening
for 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah,
it's hard. You have to start with a very short period of time and work up to it.
Like, I had a book I was going through called Real Happiness, which is like a 4
You talked about it on this podcast before.
About that book?
Yeah, that was.
Did we really talk about that book?
Wasn't it that book that?
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was like one of your first favorites, wasn't it?
Oh no! Okay, no.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
different
sorry.
Book. That was a book about like happiness psychology.
Well, I'll write this down then. You said it's Real Happiness.
Yeah, and it's just a 4-week guide to meditating, to kind of understanding what meditation is. And,
I see. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a really good guide. I found that very helpful. Beth, who wrote that?
Sharon Salzberg.
Okay, I highly recommend that book. It's very good. The other thing I've tried to do that I found a really great app for is I've tried to keep to-do lists. To kind of, every day when I get into work, I set up a list, and it might be the most minute thing I have to do. Make lunches for the kids, drive and get the kids, put the kids ready for bed, write this article, contact this person. But even if I get to work and I've already done like 2 or 3 of those things, I'll still put them on the list just so I can check them off. I use Google Keep for that. And Google Keep. We use it for our grocery list and everything too. But it's so nice because you have it like forces you to focus on those things. You're going to get those things done, but you get a little endorphin rush. Whenever you click off the little box, you feel a little accomplished. But the other thing I've noticed, I have a hard time relaxing at night, like coming home and just doing nothing. I always feel like I have to be doing something, like I have to be writing something or reading something or producing something. But if I get home and it's 8 o'clock and everything is crossed off my list, like I feel like that gives me permission to just relax.
Oh, that's really
nice. So it's been kind of a nice side effect of that. And then the last thing is Twitter. I have started taking a week where I mute Donald Trump, President, White House, anything having to do with that, just to try and avoid the noise the best I can. It still gets through. But yeah, I mean, I felt a lot more peaceful in the past few weeks because of that.
Aw, that makes me really happy to hear.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually.
So all those things, those have really helped me as life is about to get very busy. And it's nice that we have the tools that we can use as well.
Yeah, those are good apps.
I'm happy to hear that you use just sounds in your meditation. The apps are really cool. There's a ton of them. People really are into the meditation apps now. They're mostly like guided meditations. And I feel like personally you get more benefit out of doing your own meditation, even though it's harder, but it's more important to, like, anxiety, you're thinking about the future, and worrying, you can be thinking about the future or the past, or if you're feeling, when you're meditating and you have nothing going on in your head and you're just sitting there, that's when, like, I feel like you start to recharge. Like, you start to, like, fill your cup that way. And I do the same thing, like, in the mornings. A lot of times I'm up at, like, 6. And by the time it gets to be 8 o'clock, if I'm, like, losing my mind, I'm like, okay, I have to go, like, start this day over, or I'll never make it through the whole day with my 2 kids. So I'll go upstairs. I have an Amazon Alexa up there. So I just, like, ask her to she'll play music. You can say play meditation music and she'll pick whatever. Okay. I pick like Tibetan gongs a lot of the time. I love it. It's like so goofy, but it's like, or singing bowls, that sound of that, like, whoosh of.
Oh, I thought you said bowls. I'm like, what?
Yeah, singing bowls.
Bowls. I thought you said bowls. Bulls.
Oh my gosh. But I do the same thing. I just sit and breathe.
That's a good idea. I don't do any of that.
It's nice. It's also, I found a very nice way to get ready for sleep, too. I'll start focusing on my breath, and I'll usually fall asleep.
I have an article on my website about 5 ways to help yourself get better sleep, and it's mostly just about having a sleep ritual. Any sleep ritual will do, but you just have to, like, start one. It can only take a couple minutes, but it makes a huge difference when your body starts to be like, oh, we're falling asleep now. Like, this is what we do. And not looking at your phone, because that light, it'll get you. That blue light.
You got to turn off the blue light.
It tells your brain that it's noon all the time,
Yeah, that's why you got to turn it off on your phone. Most phones have settings for that.
Well,
New phones,
sorry, honey.
Well, this has been my favorite thing. So in the meantime, we will be back next week with a new episode. But in the meantime, Beth, where is that blog where people can read?
It's unicornfood.com. That's YOUNICORN food.com. I also have an article in there about 5 ways to get into alignment, which is basically just like meditating while you're doing something during the day, like while you're having a cup of coffee or while you're, listening to a song. My whole, like, philosophy is that people don't practice self-care or wellness because they feel like it takes too much time, or they're not a spiritual person and they feel intimidated, when actually 5 minutes can completely change your entire day. And that's not an exaggeration. It really can.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well, thanks.
Where's your Twitter?
It's all on there.
Oh,
okay.
Matt, what about you?
My Twitter?
Yeah.
Matt December.
All right. Well, you can find my writing about movies at MichiganSportsAndentertainment.com. I occasionally write pieces at Medium, and I tweet those out from Mere Christianity on Twitter. And you can listen to my other show we're watching here, a movie review show that airs every other Friday on Big Heads Media. And we will see you next week.
Awesome. Thanks so much
guys.
for listening.